Hi everyone, I've got a special guest today. This is Peyton. She's in first grade and she's my daughter, and she's going to hang out and read our story today with us. The story we have is called A Piece of Cake. It's a good one. It's a good one for predictions, but I bet you won't always be right. Right, Peyton? We're going to start looking at the title page. A Piece of Cake. Liyun Pham is our author and illustrator, because we know when there's only one name, that person did both. This book is printed by Balzer and Bray, which is part of Harper & Collins, and Harper & Collins has given us permission to use this book and share it on the internet with you while you're home from school. A Piece of Cake. It was Little Bird's birthday. Mouse, who was a very kind mouse, made her a cake. He worked the whole morning through and used up everything in his pantry. There's Mouse making a cake. I'm gonna take off the book jacket. They get floppy sometimes. What's your favorite kind of cake? If Mouse made you a cake, what would you want?
Maybe an ice cream cake.
Ice cream cake? I'd want chocolate cake with peanut butter icing. So if you're baking at home today and you want to make me a cake and save me a piece, what? Maybe they will. Mouse began to walk to Little Bird's home. On the way, he met Chicken, sitting with all her eggs. "Hello, Chicken," said Mouse. There's Chicken hanging out with her eggs. Chicken said, "Yummers, that's one tasty-looking cake. Hey, Mouse, could I have some? If you give me a piece of that cake, I'll trade you." What do you think Chicken will trade? Now, you know the answer. Don't give it away. What would make sense? What would you think Chicken would trade? An egg? Is that what you were thinking? A cork. A cork? Sure. Just think of all the things you can use it for. Mouse didn't think that Little Bird would need a cork. Were you thinking eggs? I was thinking eggs. But Mouse was a very kind mouse. Surely Little Bird would not mind if I give Chicken some of her cake. So Mouse traded one piece of cake for the cork and went on his way. Next, Mouse met Squirrel, who was gathering nuts. "Hello, Squirrel," said Mouse. Squirrel said, "Gadzooks, that's one tasty-looking cake. Mouse, old buddy, how about giving me some? If you trade me a piece of cake, I'll trade you." What do you think Squirrel will trade? Don't tell us the real answer. What would it make sense for Squirrel to trade?
A nut.
A nut? A wire. A wire? Oh yeah, just think of all the things you can do with a wire. Mouse couldn't imagine that Little Bird would need a wire. But Mouse was a very kind mouse. Surely Little Bird would not mind if I gave Squirrel some of her cake. So Mouse traded one piece of cake for the wire and went on his way. Soon Mouse met Bear, surrounded by as many pots of honey. "Hello, Bear," said Mouse. Bear said, "Wowzers, that's one tasty-looking cake. Mouse, my fine little fellow, would you mind giving me some? If you give me a piece of cake, I'll trade you." What do you think Bear will trade? What would make sense for Bear to trade?
Honey.
Honey. It's not honey. A net. A net? Sure, a net. You can always use a net, I tell you. Mouse was sure that Little Bird did not want a net. But Mouse was a very kind mouse. Surely Little Bird would not mind if I gave Bear some of her cake. So Mouse traded one piece of cake for the net and went on his way. Farther on, Mouse met Cow, who was surrounded by bottles of milk. "Hello, Cow," said Mouse. Cow said, "Holy cow, that cake looks good." "Mouse, my dear, may I have some? If you give me a piece of cake, I'll trade you." What do you think? Have you figured out that it's not
Milk?
It's not milk. A fly swatter. A fly swatter? Yep, a fly swatter. Nothing more useful than a fly swatter. Mouse knew that Little Bird would not want a fly swatter. But Mouse was a very kind mouse. Surely Little Bird would not mind if I gave Cow some of her cake. So Mouse traded the last piece of cake for the fly swatter and went on his way. Finally, he reached Little Bird's house. "Oh, little bird, I wanted to bring you a cake for your birthday, but I traded the pieces of cake for a cork, a wire, a net, and a fly swatter. I would make you another cake, but I've used up everything in my pantry. I'm so sorry." But Little Bird, who was a very clever little bird, said, "Oh, but Mouse, these are wonderful presents. Come with me and I'm sure we'll find a use for them." Let's see if everybody does better predicting on the way home. First, they met Cow. "What's wrong, Cow?" asked Mouse. "I lost the cap to my soap bottle. If only I had something to cork it up with." Are you thinking what I'm thinking? "Well," said clever little bird, "Cow, my dear, if you give us some milk, we'll give you..." What makes sense? What makes sense?
A cork.
A cork. Let's see if they give a cork. A wire. A wire? Yes, for blowing bubbles with your soap. And Little Bird twisted the wire into a loop, dipped it into the soap, and blew bubbles. "Wow," said Cow. So Cow traded the milk for the wire, and Mouse and Little Bird went on their way. Next, they met Bear. "What's wrong, Bear?" asked Mouse. "These bees won't leave me alone. If only I had something to swat them away." "Well," said clever little bird, "Bear, my fine fellow, if you give us some honey, we'll give you..." What could they use to swat the bees away? What makes sense?
A fly swatter, but why would they choose the fly swatter? Because if they make the bees angry, then then the bees would try to, sting them.
She makes a good point. A cork. A cork? Yes, to close up the hole of the hive so the bees can't come out. And Little Bird popped the cork into the hive to keep the bees from coming out. "Excellent," said Bear. So Bear traded the honey for the cork, and Mouse and Little Bird went on their way. Soon they ran into Squirrel. "What's wrong, Squirrel?" asked Mouse. "I can't get my nuts into the tree. If only I had something to carry them up with." "Well," said clever little bird, "Squirrel, my friend, if you give us some nuts, we'll give you..." What do you think they should give Squirrel? What would make sense?
A net.
A net. It's not a net. A fly swatter. A fly swatter? Yes, you can use it as a catapult to throw your nuts into the nest. And Little Bird bent the fly swatter in the ground, loaded it with nuts, and let it go. The nuts flew through the air and landed in the nest. "Cool," said Squirrel. So Squirrel traded some nuts for the fly swatter, and Mouse and Little Bird went on their way. Finally, they met Chicken. "What's wrong, Chicken?" "Oh, I dropped the piece of cake Mouse gave me. Oh, if only I had another piece to eat." "Oh, dear." "Well," said kind Mouse, "Chicken, dear Chicken, if you give us some eggs, we'll give you..." What will they give Chicken? Let's find out. An invitation. An invitation? Yes, to Little Bird's birthday party. With your eggs, Squirrel's nuts, Bear's honey, and Cow's milk, we can make another cake, invite everyone, and we can each have a piece of cake. "Yay," said Chicken. So Chicken traded 2 eggs for the invitation and ran off to tell the others. And Mouse and Little Bird went on to Mouse's house. Mouse and Little Bird worked all that afternoon, and together they made a cake that looked and tasted even better than the first one. After everyone was given a piece, Mouse gave Little Bird one last present. "You're such a clever mouse, and you're such a kind little bird." He filled the net with pretty flowers and gave him a bouquet of flowers. The end. Were you surprised? I like that book because it's fun to make predictions, but they're never right in that one. Do you want to hit stop for us? See you again next time.